Good evening and welcome to this digitally enabled online meeting of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, held on Monday, September 13th, 2021. I'm Mayor Todd Kasenberg and I'll call this meeting to order. I ask the Deputy Clerk to note our starting time for the minutes as 7 p.m. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional land of the Anishinaabe peoples. We wish to recognize the long history of Indigenous peoples in Canada and show our respect to them. We recognize their stewardship of the land. May we all live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship. Tonight's meeting is being streamed live on the Municipality of North Perth YouTube channel and will be available there after the meeting as an archived video. Anyone who is invited to speak will be recorded and their voice, image, and comments will form part of the live stream. The chair and or the clerk have the discretion and authority at any time to direct the termination or interruption of live streaming. Such direction will only be given in exceptional circumstances where deemed relevant. Circumstances may include instances where the content of debate is considered misleading, defamatory, or potentially inappropriate to be published. Thank you. Welcome to those joining us via the YouTube channel. Welcome to councillors, staff, and delegations who will participate in tonight's meeting. At this time, I invite your decorum for the course of the meeting. I advise that I have attendance regrets tonight from Councillor Matt Dunn. Let us move then to item 2.1 of our agenda pertaining to pecuniary interest. For the benefit of those unfamiliar with our council practices, provincial legislation requires councillors with a potential pecuniary or financial interest in any item at the council table to declare this interest and to remove her or himself from discussions and voting on the item. In accordance with recommended protocol, at this time I invite all councillors with pecuniary interest, including those who have declared already in writing, to verbally advise the chair in public session and to ensure that documentation has been submitted to this effect in writing to the clerk. Councillors are further reminded that should a potential conflict arise during the meeting, they may so declare and act at any point in the meeting. Let us begin alphabetically, as is our custom. Welcome, Councillor Anstedt. I believe you have a declaration to make.
I do. Thank you, Mayor Kasenberg. Through you this evening, I'd like to declare a pecuniary interest on item 5.5.1, the accounts, specifically the daycare, as my son attends the St. Mary's daycare, and also on item 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anstedt. Next, we'll welcome Councillor Behrens. I believe you have a declaration as well.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, I will declare a conflict of interest on 5.5.1, the accounts, 5.7.2, the Reed Drain, and 13.1. I have grandchildren attending the North Perth Spinrite Child and Family Center, as well as after-school programming, and my son-in-law is a member of a corporation that owns property on the Reed Drain. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Behrens. I think alphabetically next up is Councillor Johnston. So Johnston, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'd like to declare a conflict on item 8.1, the third reading of the Burnett Municipal Drain, as I'm an officer of a corporation that owns land on that drain, and then also with that 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Johnston. And next up is Deputy Mayor Callum.
Yes, through you, Mayor Kasenberg, I'd like to declare pecuniary interest on 5.5.1, the accounts. Specifically, Perth Meadows is my mother and father-in-law are tenants there. The daycare is my grandson attends St. Mary's Child Care Center. As well, 5.5.3, the 2022 Perth Meadows rate increases. Once again, my mother and father-in-law are tenants there. And then finally, 13.1, the confirmatory bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Have I missed anyone who intends to make a declaration? And my challenge will be to pay attention to all of those over the course of the meeting, and I'm sure the clerk will keep me a list. To explain our virtual processes, I will be systematically putting to seek consent from councillors as movers and seconders of the various businesses put before us as resolutions and bylaws tonight. I'll do this to some degree alphabetically. Should a councillor not wish to respond to the request, they may say so, and I'll move to the next name on the alphabetical list. That more often than not happens when I forget whose conflict is up for that item. Regarding speaking to our business, councillors tonight will identify themselves through our conferencing technologies chat function. The clerk is assisting me in maintaining the speaking order from that source. Councillors are allowed on their turn to deliver a primary question or comment and may make one supplemental. We will follow that speaking order carefully, and any councillor wishing to have a second say beyond their question and supplemental will go to the bottom of the list. This is a normal process consistent with Robert's Rules of Order. Councillors are reminded that if I believe you're not audible, I will call on you. You do not need to ask if you can be heard. I am the arbiter of that. Councillors are further asked to maintain a mute state in the web conference until I have called upon you for a verbal reaction. Should any of your votes not show up in eScribe, I will call on you when things have installed to register a manual vote. At that time, take yourself off mute, answer yes or no on the motion, then return to mute. That means we can turn to item 2.2 on our agenda. I have a motion before me for the adoption of the agenda for tonight's meeting that reads as follows: that the agenda for tonight's meeting be approved. Let's go right to the top of the alphabet. Councillor Andreessen, will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? I don't think we have any amendments, so let's have that vote. We're looking for one more. Who are we missing?
I'm in favor. It didn't come up in mine. Thank you.
Councillor, it was Councillor Seiler's vote. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3 on our agenda, the so-called consent agenda. These items are placed on our agenda because they are believed to be non-contentious, yet they often warrant council's recognition and or action. Grouping them expedites our business. However, any councillor wishing to extract an item from the consent agenda for discussion, debate, and individual action may do so. There are 11 items tonight on our consent agenda, including the minutes of our last regular council meeting. Councillors, do any of you have a desire to extract any of these items for further discussion or action? Clerk Feltz is going to watch the list for me. Are we seeing any indication of intent on that? All right. So we're not seeing anything at this point, which means I'll turn to the resolution that we have. The consent items 3.1 to 3.11 be received for information, and the minutes of the August 23rd, 2021 regular council meeting be adopted. Can I call on Councillor Behrens to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I will move that motion.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on this one? Councillor Rothwell, please.
Thanks, Mayor Todd. The question I have is regarding item 3.10, the proposed land use compatibility guidelines. Again, I note from the report from Mark Dorfman and the Township of Ramera some concerns regarding the same. Did the county planning staff provide any input to county council, or has there been any comments made directly to the ministry regarding the proposed changes?
Thank you for the question. I believe Mr. Yilmaz from the County of Perth Planning Department is with us. And while it's unusual to hear from him so early in the meeting, maybe we'll invite Mr. Yilmaz to try an answer at that one. Sean?
Hi, yes, thank you for the question. So the planning department at the county was aware of these changes and guidelines. I know one of the planners was looking into these guidelines. Whether they submitted formal comments from the county, I don't have that answer right now. But I most certainly can get that answer and follow up next week with that.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else with anything related to this item of our business? I believe we have it duly moved and seconded. We're not seeing any further intent for discussion, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. Let's move forward then. That brings us to item 4 on our agenda, and we have a busy item 4 tonight. First up, we have an opportunity to conduct a public meeting related to a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw instigated by owners Stephen and Joyce Bulenstein and pertaining to a surplus farm dwelling severance proposal in the Wallace ward. To facilitate the public meeting, we must temporarily adjourn from our regular council meeting. I have before me a motion to make that happen that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth adjourns at 7:11 p.m. for the purpose of a public meeting under the Planning Act concerning an application for a zoning bylaw amendment by Stephen and Joyce Muhlenstein. Councillor Johnston, can I call on you to serve as our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on this, which takes us out of our council meeting just for a few moments for our public meeting? We're not seeing anything, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. That means that we are temporarily adjourned from regular council, and we turn our attention to a matter of a public meeting. This is a public meeting pursuant to the Planning Act for a proposed amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw. Someone is unmuted, I think. You might want to check on that. I welcome all those who have attended for this purpose. At this point in time, the purpose of this public meeting needs to be stated, and it is a statutory public meeting pursuant to the Ontario Planning Act to deal with an application for an amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw submitted by Stephen and Joyce Muhlenstein. Correspondence, reports, and comments received regarding this application will be considered by council. Those in attendance remotely, who've made arrangements prior to this meeting, wishing to make comment concerning this application will be given an opportunity to do so. Anyone wishing to appeal council's decision must make verbal submission during this public meeting or have made a written submission to council. Those who wish to receive notice of the municipality's decision concerning this application must notify the clerk either by telephone or email, giving their mailing address and telephone number. At this time, we turn to consideration of the summary of the application and the request for the amendment. And to help us through that, we invite Mr. Sean Yilmaz, who is a County of Perth planner who specializes in North Perth files, to take the floor and share with us some information and overview about this application. Welcome, Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor Kasenberg, members of North Perth Council. Stephen and Joyce Muhlenstein, which are the property owners, have submitted an application to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw as a requirement of the County of Perth application for consent B1021, which is a surplus farm dwelling severance that has been provisionally approved by the county. The subject property is an exterior lot located on the northeast corner of line 87 and road 167 in the Wallace ward. The property has been approved for a land severance to create an individual lot of record consisting of one existing single detached dwelling, which has been deemed surplus, while retaining the agricultural lands consisting of farmland. As a condition of a surplus farm dwelling severance, the zoning bylaw amendment must limit the use of both the retained and the severed lots. The retained lands are rectangular in shape and is approximately 19.5 hectares or 48.2 acres. The parcel will remain in the agricultural zone, but placed in the A-62 zone. The A-62 zone prohibits the establishment of a new residential dwelling on this property. The severed lands, which is the residential lands, are approximately 0.74 hectares or 1.83 acres and will be placed into the A-1 zone. This zone limits use to one single detached residential dwelling and accessory uses. The severed lot contains an existing dwelling as well as a shed, pool, septic, and well. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms to the County of Perth official plan, and meets the requirements of the North Perth zoning bylaw. As such, it is staff's recommendation that North Perth Council approve the zoning bylaw amendment application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. Now, if you will, share with me information about public meeting details and their delivery to those who would be interested parties.
Sure. Notice was placed on the property and was mailed out 120 meters from the subject property.
Thank you. And question to both the clerk and to yourself, should it be relevant, can you summarize for us any correspondence, comments, or reports that have been received from interested parties to this date?
I have not received anything at this point. Thank you.
As well, the clerk's department has not been in receipt of any correspondence regarding the zoning bylaw application.
Thank you very much. At this time, we invite those who have pre-registered to participate in this meeting to offer any comments. Unfortunately, as I understand it from the clerk, we have not had any pre-registrations and are not aware of anyone on this line at this time who would speak either in support of or opposed to the application. Just to confirm that there isn't anyone, if you are online in our call and you wish to speak to the application, you're welcome to do so. Please take yourself off mute and introduce yourself. Okay, that confirms our pre-registration expectations. At this time, I'll invite questions or comments from council members. You see anything, Pat? Okay, so we're not seeing any indication from councillors that they have questions or comments to make about this file. Notice of the decision that council makes will be given in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. The council's decision is subject to appeal to the Ontario Land Tribunal, a new name, in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. And with that, we can consider bringing this public meeting to a close. At this time, then, Council, I invite you to consider a resolution that adjourns this public meeting. It reads as follows: that the public meeting for the purpose of a Planning Act application is now adjourned at 7:18 p.m. and that Council reconvenes into regular open council. Councillor Rothwell, can I call on you to serve as mover?
I so move.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder?
I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on the motion, which will bring us back into regular council? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Council, we are back in regular session. At this time, then, we will turn to our the vote here, I think, right? Pat, it makes sense to just go ahead and do the business associated with the public meeting first, associated with this item. So we have two resolutions, Council, for consideration. The first is a resolution from Council as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment affecting property described as Lot 37, Concession 3, 8436 Road 167 in the Wallace Ward. The proposal is consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2020, conforms to the policies of the County of Perth Official Plan, and meets the requirements of the North Perth zoning bylaw. Can I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you serve as a seconder?
Yes, I would second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate on that one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried with a total of 8-1. Thank you. Next, we have the bylaw that allows the amendment, formulates the amendment, and it reads as follows. The bylaw number 90-2021 being a bylaw to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw number 6-ZB-1999 as amended, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Councillor Behrens, can I call on you to serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I will move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thank you.
Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried also with a vote of 8-1. It's just starting to dawn on me, Council, that it may well be the epitaph on my tombstone. Seeing none, let's have that vote. That could be quite interesting. All right, let's move forward then. We have 3 delegations scheduled for this evening. The usual gentle reminder to delegates that by council procedures, we provide a total time of 10 minutes for presentation and questions and answers, unless otherwise waived by consent of council. First, it's my pleasure to welcome Tim Beklar, owner of Beklar Jewelers in Listowel. Mr. Beklar, a very familiar face to this council and to this community. The floor is yours.
Are you good? Hello?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, it's good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, good. Tim Bakelar, resident here in Listowel, and part owner of Bakelar Jewelers with my wife. Your worship, members of council. As a downtown business community, we have a few concerns on the decisions you have made and acted upon in the past few months. We understand that you have been left with making decisions based upon studies provided by outside sources. As residents and business owners, we feel these decisions have not taken into consideration the performing businesses or residents living in the community on a day-to-day basis. Residents and business owners are the basis of this community tax base. And it is for this reason we feel we need to address the positive and negative changes that have been acted upon. We need to acknowledge the recent positive changes that benefit our community. The pedestrian crosswalks on Wallace and Elma Streets by the trails, the 4-way stop at the intersection of Elma and Wallace. Our concerns are the following. The 1-way section of Wallace, the largest subdivision of Listowel, comes down Wallace to shop downtown or proceed to the north side of town. The removal of this traffic flow, except for emergency vehicles, has residents turning left or right onto Elma and then turning left or right onto Main Street, adding to the congestion you are concerned with. The safest passage is always by traffic light. And now residents are forced to proceed into or through an intersection to merge and add to traffic flow, congestion, or beat the oncoming lineup of traffic. Taking away downtown parking spaces to make traffic move through at a faster rate is not safe. Parking is a buffer zone for safety. And now the traffic is closer to the sidewalk, leaving
Mr. Beklar, we seem to have lost your audio feed. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Can you hear me?
seven parking spaces were removed, including accessibility parking in front of our store. With accessibility a mandatory requirement, we assume that this will be installed again, but it's been 4 weeks and there has not been any activity on making the downtown accessible. With new accessible spots taking existing parking for all of the shoppers, we have even less parking available for those who do not have an accessibility permit. The lack of parking affects seniors and young families. We need these business patrons to feel that our downtown is available to them. Asking our customers to walk a greater distance will only deter them from coming downtown. Customers have been vocal about their difficulty, and we have noticed an increase in customers defying the no parking and just parking out of frustration because they are seniors, because they have health issues, because they cannot find a place to park, because they have little ones that need to accompany them. Um, okay, sorry about that. Um, we are concerned with the change in seasons. This will only magnify the issue. Another safe passage, the crosswalk zone has been removed from Main Street, East and Wallace. This requires pedestrians from 10 Pass or Watson's to go up to the post office, to cross over to TELUS, and then to CIBC, then to Scotiabank, Agribank, just to proceed to the businesses located on Wallace East Side. This causes frustration for the customers. We need downtown. We have witnessed more jaywalking in the past 3 weeks. This is extremely dangerous, especially when we witness seniors and young parents with toddlers in hand. Traffic is an issue. We recognize this. We've heard this issue for 54 years. We have owned and operated Bakelar Jewelers in the downtown. Traffic is an issue all over the province and city centers. We have been to a few small communities and they leave their downtown parking alone. Many communities have created a truck bypass. We all understand the difficulties in infrastructure, and we understand it is a constant discussion for those that govern our municipality. It may not be an easy answer to create a bypass, but changing existing infrastructure in an old town is not possible. Buildings are buildings. We can relocate trucks that come through at excessive speeds that shake our buildings when they speed through, and some that leave incredible lingering odors. This fast drive-through traffic never makes a downtown core a great shopping and dining experience. The majority of truck traffic that moves through town does not contribute to the tax base of the community or give back to the community. Your downtown businesses all do. We believe in this community. We live in this community. We contribute to this community and we love it. As downtown businesses, we ask our town council to consider what we have lost over an outside study. We ask you to come downtown, listen, and talk to business owners. Many businesses are struggling with the past COVID lockdowns, labor shortage, and now we have to face issues like parking and pushing customers away from downtown. Downtown is the heart of every community. Town council has worked hard to attract new growth in our community and to provide the needed services to encourage growth. Many new subdivisions, more industry, new Steve Kerr Memorial Arena, new schools, new daycares, new North Perth Fire Hall, consistent updates at the Listowel Memorial Hospital, refurbished parks, trail improvements, North Perth facade improvements programs, just to name a few. All these are incredible assets to a growing community and the result of a municipal council and community working together. All these community public areas are needed and supported by our community and by our downtown businesses. As a business community, we need these tools to serve this new influx of population and help us to encourage a great shopping and dining experience. We need to grow our downtown experience. We all have to work together to encourage our community to live, work, and shop here. Creating a quick fast track to move traffic by taking downtown parking away is not encouraging this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baklar. Just a quick note. We did have several interruptions in your audio stream over the course of your presentation. I don't
Yes, sorry.
know that, I don't know that we materially missed anything, but I would hate to have missed anything. So if I might, I'm going to suggest that if you had prepared remarks, can you deliver them to the clerk as well, so that council will have them available to us at as we move forward in the deliberations around this matter.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
yeah,
much.
I'll forward my little speech here onto town council.
That's great. Thank you very much. Councillors, any of you have questions? Are we seeing any indication? We're not seeing any indication of questions. Okay. Mr. Baklar, thank you very much. Oh, Councillor Richardson. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you, Mr. Bakelar, and thank you for your continued support and being a business owner in the downtown core. And and as the mayor had alluded to, there were a couple of sessions that had broken out, and I would like to review your statement in its entirety. So if you wouldn't mind providing that, that would be of great benefit to me. But I just wanted to reiterate that even though this is a trial basis, we still have work to do to look at that, and we certainly understand and will take all of the opinions, including downtown business owners, which are vital to our community. We want to be able to all work together, and we will look at that after the trial period is done for this. So, and thank you so much for coming forward, and thank you so much for being a. I didn't realize it was 54 years, but 54 years. That's a long time, and kudos to you for that. And thank you so much for that, Tim. And we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Richardson. Certainly a golden record for your business as well, and we really do genuinely appreciate it. I think Councillor Richardson summarized the thoughts that I had, certainly on behalf of council. I know I can assure that there will be more consultation that lies ahead, and that will include a public information session opportunity for a range of people to bring their comments forward. But yours will certainly be brought to that record, and we appreciate your willingness to send us a copy of your prepared remarks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, so next we're going to have a report. Our second delegation this evening is a report on PC Connect, the public transit system that has been running in Perth County and to points even beyond the county since January of this year. Our delegate is Maggie Martin, who is the PC Connect coordinator. Ms. Martin, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Through the worship, thank you so much for the opportunity to join you all this evening. I see many familiar faces and names up on the screen here tonight. However, for those of you who I haven't had the pleasure to meet, my name is Maggie Martin, and I'm the Transit Project Coordinator at the County of Perth. And I'm joining you all this evening just to provide a very brief update on the PC Connect service and our operations to date. So for those of you who may not be as familiar with the project, PC Connect is our all-new community transportation service that provides residents with an alternative and affordable method of transportation in order to access basic needs, which can range from getting to the grocery store, places of employment, healthcare, social services, and even social and recreational activities. So we successfully launched the service on November 16th of 2020. And in just 9 short months, we've completed a total of 970 rides on our 2 Perth County routes. So of course, the environment that we have been operating under to date has been less than ideal and has presumably negatively impacted our ridership. However, as both COVID-19 restrictions and rider hesitancy decreases, our ridership is expected to continue at a positive growth rate. So in order to create the safest environment possible for our riders, we continue to enforce a number of COVID-19 precautions on board all of our buses, which includes 50% reduced capacity, mandatory face coverings, and increased sanitization practices. So we continue to work closely with all of our partners such as the MTO and here in Perth Public Health, in order to determine and implement the best practices in terms of COVID-19 prevention. In order to educate residents about PC Connect, we have been executing a multimedia marketing campaign that leverages a variety of different channels in order to reach our diverse target demographics. So just to name a few, we've launched a series of radio advertisements with multiple local radio stations. We're currently running a targeted social media advertisement campaign. We've got the digital billboard, downtown listable, and print advertisements through local publications and newspapers. So since our marketing efforts have commenced, which was about mid-July when the COVID restrictions were lifted, we've reached 40,000 viewers in just 1 month of paid social media advertisements. We've seen a 100% increase in PC Connect call center volume, 86% increase in PC Connect website traffic, and our ridership has increased by an average of 25% month over month. In addition to our marketing and advertising efforts, we're also focusing on our community outreach and really promoting PC Connect to different services and social groups, employers, and school boards throughout the county and surrounding areas. So to date, we've educated a variety of residents about PC Connect through presentations to organizations such as Conestoga Career Center, Employ, Will Employment's Connections, Avon-Maitland District School Board, as well as the Stratford Rotary Club. So community outreach is certainly ongoing and it continues to be a top priority for staff. We're also working on introducing a new PC Connect app, which will allow riders to track the bus, secure their seat in advance, and pay for their ride using a variety of different payment methods, all at the tip of their fingers. So we're extremely excited to be able to introduce this new PC Connect feature. And we're really confident that the app will not only enhance the overall rider experience, but it'll also enable us to capture powerful data that'll be vital to the sustainability of the PC Connect project. As many of you may be aware, the initial grant funding provided by the Government of Ontario was to fund a transportation pilot project until March of 2023. The county recently received notice that the government will be extending the project with an additional provincial funding for another 2 years, which would take us until March of 2025. So Perth County Council recently approved staff's recommendation to accept the funding extension and continue to operate the service as is until the funding is exhausted, which will really provide staff with the necessary time to collect ridership data, improve capacity, and also work with community partners to secure additional funding in order to allow us to operate for the full extension. So more details are expected to be provided in the upcoming months by the community transportation team. However, we are extremely grateful for the opportunity to extend our PC Connect project, which will give us the opportunity to pursue a long-term sustainable service for our community. With that, my report is before you, and I'm happy to address any comments, questions, or concerns the council may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Martin. Councillors, do you have any questions for Ms. Martin about PC Connect or the transit future in Perth County? Councillor Andreessen is first. Leanne?
I think Neil's up first, but if you want me to go, that's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Andreessen. I'll apologize to Councillor Hanson next.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you to Maggie for your report. I enjoyed reading it. And thank you for your presentation. I just have a couple questions. I'm curious, perhaps you could look into this a bit further and send this information later, but what would it take in terms of the ridership to provide stability and sustainability for this to so, pretty much fund itself. So I'm curious about that in terms of ridership. And the other part was on the second page of your report, you provided a great description of routes A and B and what the numbers were there. I'm just curious about what the numbers were for line 1, 2, and 3, for routes 1, 2, and 3. So yeah, but thank you. I'm very interested in the information that you shared and great work. Thank you.
Ms. Martin, did you want to respond?
Sure, through your worship. Thank you so much for those questions. To answer or to address your first question about kind of the sustainability of the project, it is something that we are working on as we gather more data to really determine how we can make this project sustainable once our provincial funding is exhausted. So it's certainly something that I will plan to get back to as soon as we can. About how to make the project sustainable moving forward. And your second question about ridership on routes 1, 2, and 3, those 3 routes are being managed by the City of Stratford in partnership with yourself, North Perth, and the City of Stratford. So I don't have that included in my update report, but I can certainly reach out to my colleagues and get those ridership numbers to you as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I'm sure that CAO Snell can organize some feedback on the routes 1, 2, and 3. Councillor Andreessen. I think Councillor Anstead is next. He was supposed to be first, so my apologies, Neil, but you're up now.
No problem. Thank you, Mayor Kaseberg, through you. Thank you very much, Maggie, for your report. Nice to see you again. I'm just wondering, well, first of all, I'd like to say I know how hard you've been working on this project since the beginning, and I want to thank you on behalf of council and everybody that uses this system. One question I did have, though, I'm wondering if you could touch a little bit on the feedback or the responses, I guess, or the feedback from the partners or the stops that you've had. Have you had ongoing consultations with those parties?
Ms. Martin, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Through your worship. Yeah, we've been working really closely with our partners as well as the employers that we have located along the routes. So we have been having ongoing consultation with them and really working on how we can optimize these stops. So we're continuously gathering feedback and taking that into consideration for how we can optimize the service, enhance our stop locations and our timing in order to overall increase our ridership and make this project as successful as possible.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Anstead. Next up is Councillor Seiler.
Thank you, Mayor Todd, and thank you, Maggie, for your presentation. I'm just wondering, is there going to be any stops between here and Listowel to Elmira, or to Listowel to Elmira onto Conestoga? Maybe like, let's say, the Dorking or even the Sisters Restaurant or down to Elmira and then across. Would there be any way people could get on the bus at those locations in the future?
So through your worship, again, as I mentioned, routes 1, 2, and 3 are being managed by the City of Stratford. The CIO, Mr. Schnell, may want to speak to that. However, I do know that they're working on making some enhancements to the Route 1 in order to get some more ridership. So I think there are some stops planned either along 86 or a bit of a reroute to some of the communities just off of the route. However, I can certainly get some more information on that and provide it to council at a later date.
All right, that'd be fine. Thank you very much, Maggie, for your good work.
Thank you.
I have just one question, Ms. Martin, and that is if somebody did want to sort of have a stop that was somewhat rural because they worked, for example, at the genetics place down on 147, for example, would that be considered? Would there be special consideration given if that person was seeking that?
So to you, your worship, we are working on the potential of introducing those kind of one-off stops, which are referred to as flex stop locations. So it is our goal with this new app that we will be able to offer stop locations that are in close proximity to the existing route. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. And once that is implemented, which we hope to be in the near future, riders will just be able to flag a stop on the app and get picked up in close proximity to the existing stop locations.
Great, that sounds wonderful. Thank you very much. Any further questions from council for Ms. Martin? Council, I can tell you from my experience in working with Ms. Martin and the team at the county, this has been an incredible labor of love and effort. It happened, of course, in highly unusual times, but the perseverance and the intention to do good by our community has been first and foremost all along this process. And so I can personally express my gratitude, but I think on behalf of the community and council to Maggie and to the team, Hydra and ECDEV at the county for all of their efforts in making this fly. It's much appreciated.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Martin. Now, next we have one more delegation before we're finished with this section of the agenda. Our third delegation this evening relating to minor hockey costs is Mr. Claude Leroux. He serves as the president of Listowel Minor Hockey. Mr. Leroux, the floor is yours. So we're not hearing you yet. If you take yourself off mute, that would be helpful.
Can you hear me better now? Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Very good. Thank you. Yes, we can hear you fine.
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me at all?
Yes, we can. Can you hear us?
Okay. There we go. Yep. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I had some audio issues at the beginning. So, okay. I'm going to do my best here to cover all this. So, Mayor Kassenberg and North Perth Council, thank you so much, first of all, for allowing us to present to you today and have a conversation. Yes, my name is Claude Leroux. I am the president of Listowel Minor Hockey. I'm into my second and final year as my term as president. Joining me today is also Stephen Hurst, who is our town contact, and he'll be addressing you about halfway through this. We'll try to, keep things pretty timely. One thing that we've been doing lately, and what we've been working on really hard is essentially trying to find the most and provide the most quality, affordable, inclusive minor sports available to our, local members or local families. Currently, we have 295 registrants. That constitutes roughly 200 families, and that's operated by 17 local volunteer executives. I've been on the executive for Listowel Minor Hockey going on 8 years, and I've held many different titles and roles and done all kinds of different things. And one of the largest challenges we've had for the last approximately 6 years, 5-6 years, is either not running a deficit or just simply trying to break even as an organization. As everyone can understand, minor sports and hockey, probably on the top of the list, is one of the most expensive sports to play. It's also one of the most expensive sports to provide as well. So with that methodology of quality, affordability, and inclusivity, we've been looking at a lot of different areas over the last little while. And I'll say last year is an anomaly. We're not even going to count that towards anything that we're trying to do at all, but we did offer some level of hockey last year. But Stephen later on will share some figures and talk about the last, say, 5 years of where we've been. What we've seen is we're at a level now where we have had to significantly increase the registration costs to our local families to a point now where we believe it's nearly unsustainable for the average family. We see it. We try to find ways to work around it. we have, and we're very lucky to have sponsorship from many local businesses and many local families, and some other large-scale corporations that also provide much relief to help reduce costs, typically for our younger age groups. You know, things like Muhlenstein Tire provides almost an excellent program to nearly make hockey free for those that are, I think it's 6 years and younger, 5 years and younger. But as you get older, obviously the costs start to rise, and our entire goal is to keep the kids in hockey as long as possible. So some of the programs that we've been looking at is, you know, anything and things that will help us provide the most revenue in order to be able to break even. I believe our last deficit was, the biggest one we had was 2 years ago in the area of roughly $25,000 as a deficit. And we came to that value simply because we were trying to increase registration costs without providing some shock effect to our local families by increasing registration several $100s every year. But we're at the point now where we are getting to a point where we're going to be very expensive this year. So we looked at different programs, and luckily we have an excellent executive that volunteer and are willing to help us run programs that help bring the most back. So one of them that we've been working on, and we believe we have a committee that's ready to run forward with it, is actually operating the food booth at the arena. We do have some logistical challenges to overcome in order to do that well, but we realize that that's probably a positive net for us. And the second one is actually running several tournaments instead of just one we typically do. We're looking at running 2 or 3. And again, those not only bring in quite a bit of funding to minor hockey, but also to the arena and to our local community. We now have, the challenge we had previous years was having volunteers helping us run some of these. As you can tell, a tournament is quite a challenge to run for a small number of people. We've implemented a program this year called a bond program, whereas all members, all families within minor hockey are required to provide up to 3 hours of volunteer hours to help us, or we would cash a $500 check of theirs. So the message to all our families is we don't want to cash the checks at all. We simply want the hours. And what that's done is it's actually allowed us to build a council or a small committee of 8 members that are now developing a plan to implement at least 2, if not 3 tournaments this year. And those generate several $1,000s in revenue and help. Now, so we're trying to run as many programs as we can that give us the most, while my main focus is to reduce that registration check to our families in the end. So we kind of look at all facets, and one of them that comes back is obviously the ice costs. And, you know, we are all aware of what the ice costs are. You voted on them and, you know, accepted those costs. But us as a local, I would say a large customer of the municipality, you know, we don't like to see ourselves as a customer. We'd rather see ourselves as a true partner to North Perth. And, you know, we've looked at our partners in other communities around us, and we've seen that there is some relief offered to some other centers. So like we've been trying to do, we're trying to leave no stone unturned. And I want to leave my post as the president to the next president with not only a full stable of executives, but also a strong organization and something to build on even further than what we already have in this community. So what we're looking for and what we're trying to talk about is some form of relief on the cost of ice. I think that is the one of the remaining stones that we really haven't been able to flip over yet, and that's why we're here today. So with that, I'm going to turn over to Stephen, who can go ahead and share some more information and some actual figures and calculations, and then we'll be happy to take some questions at the end of this. So thank you all. Thank you, Your Worship. Go ahead, Stephen.
Mayor and councillors, thanks for having us tonight, as Flo said. Yeah, our big struggle here is hockey used to be Canada's game. Listowel had quite the name in hockey, and that's no longer the case. Our numbers over the last 5 or 6 years have dwindled from almost 400 registrants down to about the current 295. and it's a struggle. The cost is a struggle for most families. Our major cost in minor hockey is definitely our ice time. It's probably about 60%, 65% of our cost. We're expected to have about a bill for $220,000 this year to provide ice time to our registrants. We're asking that the council possibly help us with relief and maybe create a listable minor hockey fee. And that's for listable minor hockey at a rate of 80 to 90% of what's currently charged. We expect that to provide us relief of about $20,000 a year to $30,000 a year. Our long-term goal is, though, if we can keep our costs down, get our registrants up, we'll end up actually adding ice times, and more ice times added will be fees back into listable and back to the town. Sorry, lost my spot here, 1 second. Yeah, so our long-term goal is we want to get registrants up. The more registrants, the more ice time we're going to need. Hopefully make those costs back up twofold for the town as well as ourselves. We've got an interview with the paper. We're looking to share some of the projects we're working on with them so it gets out to our families and stuff. There's another project. We are partnered with Bauer this year to try to attract kids that have not played hockey between the ages of 6 to 10. Bauer will come in for a minimal fee and outfit these players. As an organization, we provide ice time for these players and we try to get them into the system and stay in hockey. But the long-term fight is going to be costs again. We'd love to be able to have our interview with the town and say, or with the paper, and say that the town is on board with helping make hockey affordable for all children in the town. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. So I just wanted to cover just kind of a recap at the end here, a conclusion. And really that is, yes, we are looking for some form of relief. On top of that, you know, we're looking at trying to actually get more ice time by running more tournaments and being able to help in some way to generate even more, you know, revenue for the town if we can. But in turn, we're looking for some sort of listable minor hockey specific ice cost. I think that would be something that we would love to discuss at some point. So, Your Worship and Council, that's our presentation for today. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Councillors, questions are now welcomed. Of course, use the usual process and indicate in the chat window. Are we seeing any indication of questions for our delegation on hockey? Councillor Richardson first.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kasenberg, and thank you very much for the report, gentlemen. I'm just wondering if it wouldn't be of benefit to possibly pose this to the Recreational Advisory Committee as well. They've come right to council, whereas they can go through the numbers and they establish the fees and rates for ice times and stuff, and possibly we could just look at it that way. I can certainly appreciate your plight to do that. But I do believe it does need a little bit more analysis, but possibly putting this through to a RAC might be a good, or Recreational Advisory Committee might be another good place, another good stepping stone for this. Thank you.
Councillor Andreessen is next.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I really appreciate Matt's idea. I think that would be helpful as well. One of my comments would be to Claude and to the Listowel Minor Hockey would be that our consideration would also have to look into the needs of our figure skating clubs too, because those figure skating clubs are using ice times as well. And I feel that if we were going to do it for one recreational group, we might have to consider other recreational groups, and that would have to be weighed into the decision. That would be my feeling in terms of fairness. So I do appreciate certainly, you know, the needs of your organization for sure. My children certainly benefited from recreational opportunities in hockey for sure. and in figure skating too. So I think that should be something of consideration. And I agree with Councillor Richardson that perhaps through the RAC committee that could be something that could come forward in the future. Thank you.
Councillor Barnes is next.
Thank you, through you, McKersenberg. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your presentation. It is certainly appreciated to bring to our attention the struggles of your organization. I do believe that Councillor Richardson and Councillor Andreessen have both made great points. I do believe this is a Recreation Advisory Committee issue that we should send back to them, but it would be for all minor um, ice sports. So it'd be figure skating, it would be hockey, whatever minor sport there is, and it would be for all of the groups, not just Listowel minor hockey. So I think that would be the one clarification that I would make. I would certainly look forward to seeing what the Recreation Advisory comes back with. Just a question, to be perfectly clear, and I don't know if our facilities manager is with us, but my understanding was we already had a minor sports rate that had a reduction from the percentage of what we would normally charge. But that can be clarified at a later date. And thank you so much for your presentation once again.
Councillor Johnston next.
Thank you, Mayor Todd. I'm just going to make a conflict on this because I do have a son that is actually on the ice in a couple minutes as he is enrolled in Listowel minor hockey. So because of the they're talking about the registration fee, I'm not going to comment or vote on anything.
Thank you, Councillor Johnston. Anyone else, Clerk Bearfelds? Okay, so I'm picking up, gentlemen. First of all, let me say thank you on behalf of council. You know, this is how our democracy system works, and we appreciate you coming and bringing to us the issues that you're facing and how this community could better engage to support you. I think that we should consider what councillors have said, and councillors have suggested that perhaps this council should request of the Recreation Advisory Committee a report considering possible angles for rate changes and other special considerations perhaps that might suit and help your organization be more successful in delivering its program. Council, I smell a motion there. I kind of said what I think it is. Anyone want to add any provisos or conditions on that at this point? Okay, I'm kind of hoping that Deputy Clerk Beer was paying attention to what I was saying, because I think we should consider a resolution on the floor. Given the comments that we've heard, perhaps we can ask Councillor Andreessen, will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I make that motion just as long as the motion is about all recreational sports that require ice time. Thank you.
Okay, so let's make sure the proviso is that that we are delegating to the Recreation Advisory Committee a mandate to prepare a report to look at opportunities to support, engage, and perhaps subsidize all ice sports. Is that the best way to put it? The clerk is nodding her head, so it must be okay. All right, Councillor Richardson, will you second that one?
Yes, I will second that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to that end. Anyone have any further discussion or debate on that particular item? Councillor Seiler, do you wish to jump in here?
Just for some clarification, does that include Wallace and Alma? Thank you.
I believe that's our intent, that we're going to ask for all ice sports in all of our facilities. So again, Deputy Clerk Beer, if you can kind of manipulate the language that I've been throwing around, and it's been a couple kicks at this now, perhaps we'll get something that actually makes sense. and that's okay with you, Councillor Andreessen and Councillor Richardson? You have no objections to consideration across the entire rink portfolio?
No issues. Has to be fair across the
Yeah.
board.
Thank you. Okay. Any further discussion or debate on this one? Okay, so we're not seeing anything. I'm hoping Deputy Clerk Beer is her trusty self and has something ready for a vote. So let's have the vote. If you're with us, Danette. Oh, look at that. And that is carried unanimously from those who are declared eligible to vote. Thank you very much. Council, while we're still in section 4, gentlemen, again, thank you for your drawing our attention to these matters and your time and even eloquence in speaking to this. I made lots of good notes, so I learned a lot tonight. I appreciate that. Council, while we have the opportunity, Mr. Baklar also presented to us several issues. What is the wish of council? Is there any will here to do anything, or shall we wait for the experiment to come to its natural end? We're not seeing people leaping forward. Councillor Andreessen?
Thank you through you, Mayor Kaysenberg. I was very interested in Tim Bakler's presentation in terms of his concerns with parking. And when we were initially looking at this change, I guess I failed to understand that there would be some parking implications. And I'm wondering if, given the feedback that we have, could there be some more immediate changes to having the parking return to Main Street, if possible? And yes, I'd like more information about that, and if something could be changed sooner. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think Councillor Rothwell is up as well. Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks, Mayor Todd. And perhaps we could hear from staff in particular with respect to the parking for accessible parking spaces. It's even more crucial, I believe, than just the standard parking, but I think we should have an answer on that one specifically. And if there's not one here this evening, perhaps we can get a response from our manager, Lyndon Couch, on that issue. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So I think what I might suggest is that we bring forward or invite staff to bring forward a report for next week. Just maybe it's time for on this anyway. Perhaps Mr. Couch, let me just play with this for a moment, Council. Perhaps Mr. Couch, if you haven't finished measuring the things that might relate to the loss of those parking spots to the public in downtown, that you should do that soon, because it seems like it may be there may be some desire to see some of those parking spots restored. So if there's specific measures that apply to those parking spots, I'm hoping that you've got them consolidated and could consider a request of council to restore some parking if that was our wish at a near future date. Council, would you entertain a motion then? Is this what I'm getting? A motion for a report from staff pertaining to some of the concerns that were raised at tonight's meeting, in particular with regards to parking and accessible parking. Is that reasonable? And to be returned at our next council meeting, I think, because we're getting to the halfway point for this. Make a sense of anyone who's vigorously opposed to doing anything like that. Okay, so I'm not seeing much indication of that. So, council, let's say that we have a motion then on the floor that invites staff or staff to bring a report forward next week that considers some of the matters that we heard tonight, especially with regards to the accessibility of parking and its impacts on the business community, and that that report be delivered for the next council meeting. Can I call on Councillor Rothwell to serve as our mover for that one?
Yes, I'll move that.
Thank you. Councillor Seiler, will you be our seconder?
We'll second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate on this one? A little impromptu, but I think we got the general gist of it's time for us to take a look anyway, right? Okay, we're not seeing anything, so let's have a vote on that one. And we're missing Councillor Johnston.
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And so with that, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Staff is thus so directed. Okay, thank you all for the delegates who have been here. You're welcome, if you haven't already left, to depart from our meeting at this point in time. And that means we get to move forward to item 5, reports from our departments and from key staff. We have no reports from the CAO's department for tonight's meeting, which allows us to move forward to item 5.2, reports from the clerk's department. For item 5.2.1, council is invited to consider an amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw to support implementation of a severance approved by the County of Perth Land Division Committee pertaining to a property in Elma Township owned by parties Buchanan and represented by agent Patterson Planning Consultants. I believe we're calling on Mr. Yilmaz, our North Perth planner with the County of Perth, to explain the proposed action and answer any questions from council about what Land Division did. Mr. Yilmaz.
Thank you. So yes, this application is for a zoning bylaw amendment, which was submitted by Patterson Planning Consultants on behalf of the property owner. And it was to change the zoning classification of a portion of the subject lands which contain an existing single detached dwelling to the residential 4 zone. The zoning bylaw amendment is imposed as a condition of consent for application B11-2021, which proposes to sever a new lot having an area of approximately 0.31 hectares or 0.77 acres and containing of the existing dwelling, while retaining the balance of the subject lands, which are currently cultivated and would have an area of approximately 5.4 hectares or 13.4 acres. The consent also included the creation of an access and servicing easement and right-of-way, being approximately 1,270 square meters in area in order to accommodate access to an existing driveway and existing services. The consent application is discussed in more detail in the associated staff report, which was included with your package. But however, for tonight, we're discussing the zoning bylaw amendment, which we had a public meeting previously on July 19th, 2021 at a North Perth Council meeting. The application was discussed in detail. However, a decision on the proposed amendment was subsequently deferred by council, pending a decision on the related consent application, which at that time had some outstanding issues. Land Division Committee, with the support of County of Perth Planning staff, granted the severance subject to several conditions, including a condition which requires the extension of Woodview Drive by a minimum of 4 meters to accommodate appropriate public road frontage for the proposed severed lot, as well as the requirement to rezone the lands to appropriate zones. As such, the proposed zoning bylaw amendment changes the zoning of the area containing the existing dwelling from the future development zone to the residential 4 zone with site-specific provisions identified as R4-22. This will permit the existing residential use in addition to uses normally permitted within the R4 zone. And it will also recognize the deficient lot frontage, which will be 4 meters or 13 feet. The amendment will also recognize a reduction in the area of the remaining lands within the future development zone, as this zone states that the lands within this zone shall remain as they lawfully existed on the date of passing of the North Perth zoning bylaw. The applicant has shown regard to the lot fabric, and the proposal does not impede the potential for future development on the surrounding lands. Approval of the proposed zoning amendment will also satisfy a condition of consent relating to the creation of the new residential parcel, as I've noted. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment is consistent with the provincial policy statement, conforms with the County of Perth official plan, and implements the intent of the Municipality of North Perth zoning bylaw. Now, I just wanted to add, because we did have council defer this based on some concerns with the proposal originally. And the real point of discussion was what constituted access. So following the public meeting, planning staff with consultation with the applicant's planner discussed in detail about what is meant by access with a public road. We feel that with the appropriate agreements in place, as required by the conditions of the severance, and with an appropriate portion of land available, that is the frontage, that is available to accommodate direct access through the establishment of a driveway in the future, should the need arise, then the intent of the official plan policy that requires lots created to have access to a public road is met. As such, it is staff's recommendation that council approve the zoning bylaw amendment before you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yilmaz. Questions or first comments from council? We're not seeing any. So just to clarify, I want to make sure that I've got this straight in my head, Mr. Yilmaz. This is a little bit different than the motion that this council set forward to Land Division with regards to the approach of treating that frontage. Am I right?
Thanks for the question. Sorry, it's slightly different. North Perth did elect to support the application, which would have saw the road Woodview Drive extend northward by 3 meters. We added in an extra meter because driveways do require a meter from the property line. So that's where the 4 meters, it would increase to 4 meters. We also included some conditions regarding the access agreement and easement to solidify our responsibilities. So that was a little bit different than what was presented at the first public meeting, at the public meeting.
Thank you for clarifying. Any questions or first comments before we consider the two resolutions that we have here, 2 items of business? All right, so I have a resolution that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the application for a zoning bylaw amendment affecting property described as Park Lots 16 and 17, Concession 8, Elma Ward, 302 Woodview Drive, Atwood, in the Municipality of North Perth. The proposal is consistent with the Provincial Policy Statement 2020, conforms to the policies of the County of Perth Official Plan, and meets the intent of the North Perth zoning bylaw. Can I call on Councillor Anstett to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I would move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Behrens, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I will second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. And now to the bylaw. We have the amendment to the North Perth zoning bylaw here that reads as follows: that bylaw number 84-2021, being a bylaw to amend the North Perth zoning bylaw number 6-ZB-1999 as amended, be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Kellum to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I will make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you very much. That allows us to move down the road to item 5.3, reports from the Programs Department. And our only item for this department tonight, item 5.3.1. Council is asked to approve the provision of staff support for a pilot project or program involving the 123 Look at Me Nursery School aged program in North Perth. Full cost recovery is intended. I'm going to ask North Perth Manager of Programs Amy Gangle to give us a brief overview of this item. Ms. Gangle, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Kiesenberg and members of council. As always, we're always trying to think of out of the box, some creative thinking, and today we're thinking outside of the sandbox per se. Staff shortages have existed in childcare sector for over 10 years in the province, but this past pandemic year has put an added strain to our system. The need for registered early childhood educators is in high demand, and it's been a challenge to retain and sustain staff capacity at many centers. The municipality of North Perth and 123 Look at Me are no exception. While the municipality has been capable of managing staffing needs, it has been difficult to maintain a strong supply list to draw from when program numbers increase or to fill staff absences. Part of this is because the hours are being offered are only part-time casual. Many registered ECEs are seeking full-time positions, and when those opportunities arise, they leave our organization for them. 123 Look at Me currently has no registered ECEs and therefore cannot provide programming until these positions fill. With full program registrants, they could provide up to 30 hours per week for 2 registered ECEs. Currently, all administrative processes are being completed by volunteer parents. The ever-changing regulation requirements and stress on limited staff capacity are becoming overwhelming for them. They urgently want and need this program to continue, as they've identified value to our community for such a program. Any help that can be made to ensure this program's continuation is welcomed and appreciated by them. Under the guidance from the City of Stratford, the municipality of North Perth was approached by 123 Look at Me Nursery, seeking assistance with their center's operations for the school year. Through this partnership, it's anticipated that we can provide more secure hours to staff and therefore have a stronger chance of retaining them. Staff will also see the growth opportunities within North Perth for early childhood educator sector and want to stay in their community. The pilot program that we propose supports the following, supports 3 of our priorities from our strategic plan, and it also supports the program department's charter of fostering a sense of community through quality programs. So the municipality of North Perth understands the value of a center such as 123 Look at Me has on our community. It allows an opportunity for our youngest citizens to begin the transition from home to school environments in a gradual yet safe and progressive way. Some families are not seeking full day childcare, but rather an opportunity to introduce their children in an educational environment. The center fills that need. The municipality of North Perth submitted a proposal for the City of Stratford seeking financial assistance for this pilot partnership, where we would provide staffing support as well as guidance on ministry requirements for 123 Look at Me. In addition to the Ministry of Education support for this partnership, as outlined in the proposal, North Perth can provide support for 123 Look at Me on the conditions provided that we have staff capacity to do so, that we have financial support is available to cover the costs of supplying, training, and administering staffing needs, that the Council Municipality of North Perth approves this pilot project. The City of Stratford reviewed the proposal and they approved the funding for this pilot program. But after consulting with the Ministry of Education, Early Years and Childcare Division, they felt this program would greatly benefit from this partnership. However, they require that the licensee needs to employ the staff. Staff reached out to the City of Stratford with this updated information, and they have approved subsidy funding for both organizations for this pilot program. This allows time over the next few months to work together towards a plan for the sustainability of 123 Look at Me operations. The nursery program is only offered during the school time, so we see the benefit. There could be an opportunity for the staff to transition into our summer full-day kinder camp programs or fill childcare vacation weeks, so these positions would have hours all year round. This will appeal to candidates as well as strengthen the childcare staff sustainability. Staff would be employed at each organization independently. However, the municipality of North Perth and 123 Look at Me would partner to advertise staffing needs in the hopes the combined hours would appeal to candidates. Together, we will recruit, hire, train staff for each of our program needs. 123 Look at Me would be responsible for registering children into their programs as well as for their daily on-site operations. North Perth staff would be available as needed throughout the year for ongoing guidance and support. As the Mayor highlighted, this is a cost recovery program. We did attach the original proposal we gave to the City of Stratford. However, with the after the instructions from the Ministry of Education, please note that the adjustments to that is the time, what this would be for our staff, is approximately 1.5 hours a week worth of time that fee and time would be subsidized from the City of Stratford. That's an estimate. It will be a little bit more hours at the beginning until they get up and running. And then once we help them get running, they should be fairly independent, but we would be available to consult if need be. So approximately guesstimating $3,500 to $5,000 instead of the $60,000 that was in that proposal. Happy to answer any questions and receive feedback from council.
Thank you, Ms. Gangle. In the interim, as your report was being delivered, several councillors realized that they may have a conflict of pecuniary interest. And so let me address those first. I believe Councillor Anstedt, you have concern here. Are you intending to do incorporation?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Kasenberg. And I do, obviously with a newborn, month-and-a-half-year-old at home, this is a program that he may be participating in, so I don't feel like it is appropriate for me to comment or vote on this issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Anstedt. Next, Councillor Behrens, I think, sent in as well.
Yes, similar, since it will be somewhat connected to our childcare programming through the municipality, I will declare a conflict. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Callum, did you intend to declare conflict on this one too?
Yes, I sure do. I have the same concerns as Councillor Behrens and Councillor Anstedt. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else foresee a conflict at this point? Amazing how these creep up. All right. Councillor Andreessen, you have questions or comments?
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. And thank you to Ms. Gangle for her report. As a former educator and, of course, a former principal, I'm fully aware of staffing needs in terms of finding our ECEs and educators in our system. And as a former educator, I really see the value of these types of programs in our community. Um, I I do have some concerns. I appreciate the fact that this is definitely going to be a pilot, and I think that's going to be an important thing to really take a look at whether this is actually going to truly fill those staffing needs. What particularly can happen is that once illness hits a center or a number of centers, it still can become quite a challenge to fill in absences. And so we could potentially have more absences to fill because we have more positions to fill. So that would be one of my concerns, but certainly we would start to see that through a pilot. And also just to make sure that all the requirements from the Ministry of Education are fulfilled would be very important in terms of programming at 1, 2, 3 at that facility. And I also think that taking a close look at you know, our responsibilities as an employer and that other facility, if things are to progress through this pilot, would be something to be, you know, careful about making some decisions about, because we could potentially more responsible for now another facility in North Perth. So again, that's why probably the pilot's the best way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Andreessen. Anyone else with first comments or questions? We're not seeing any. So we do have a resolution that's going to have a scant team voting on it, but we have a resolution that reads as follows: that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approves staff support to 123 Look at Me Nursery for a pilot program for the 2021-2022 school year duration as a cost recovery program. Can I call on Councillor Richardson to be our mover for this one?
I will move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Rothwell, would you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate beyond what we've heard so far? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. That seems about right. So I think that's carried. Thank you. We're sort of at the 8:30 hour. This is probably as good a time as any to take a little bit of a break. I think we'll want that break tonight. There's enough that lies ahead. So let's take let's call it a 7-minute break. Council will return at 5, not good. 8:37 p.m. All right, Council, thank you for a brief recess. We are returning to our agenda. And at this point in time, that brings us to agenda item number 5.4, reports from our facilities department. We have no reports from the facilities department tonight. Oh, my camera's not routed. Thank you, Simon. All right, so we're moving past 5.4 because there are no items on our agenda. That brings us to reports from our finance department as item 5.5. First up is item 5.5.1. In it, finance staff has brought forward for council review the accounts as of this day, September 13th, 2021. I'll note that some councillors have already declared a potential pecuniary interest in this item and will absent themselves from consideration and voting. Are there any questions about this report for staff? Seeing none, I have a resolution for consideration. The following summary of accounts be received by council for information. The total on the bottom line is $1,590,219.22. Can I call on Councillor Seiler to be our mover for this one?
Yes, I'll move that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Andreessen, will you be our seconder?
Yes, I'll second that motion. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Any discussion or debate from those councillors participating in this one? Seeing none, let's have that vote. Do we think that's everybody? If I think so, are we missing Councillor Rothwell? Councillor Rothwell, what say you? Councillor Rothwell, are you with us at this moment? Fairfields, can you check on whether you see Councillor Rothwell in the conference? Okay. He's on mute. Okay, Councillor Rothwell, you're on mute, it would appear. I'm hearing some audio. What's suggestive of audio interference? Can you see his face in video? No. Okay, I think we'll have to declare that Councillor Rothwell is absent temporarily from this vote. Is that the way to look at this, Fairfields? Okay, so I think we'll call that carried, noting that Councillor Rothwell was temporarily inconvenienced by the technology. So, right. Let's move forward then. And can we ask Simon to check on Councillor Rothwell for his feet, please? Next up then is item 5.5.2. Council is invited to provide direction to staff on the initiation of a competitive process to procure our next insurance broker of record. A proposed 3-year term with possibilities up to a 5-year term. I believe Ms. Hale is with us and I invite her to make any comments. Ms. Hale, our treasurer, welcome.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kiesenberg. This evening, Josh White is with us, and he will go over the report with council with your consent.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. White.
Thank you. And good evening, Mayor Todd and members of council. We are bringing this report forward tonight seeking council's approval on the issuing of a request for proposal for the municipality's insurance broker services. As you're aware, Keel Dadson has been providing the services for the municipality for several years, but given the relationship goes well beyond our standard 3-year period with no defined end date, we feel that it is appropriate to have a competitive proposal process for these services to be in line with the municipality's procurement bylaw. Originally, we looked at releasing this bid last year, but given that we subsequently were issuing our insurance coverage RFP in early 2021, we decided to postpone given the broker RFP to now, as it would be difficult for the transition to take place if there were another broker to be successful. Once the request for proposal is completed, the results and recommendation of the evaluation team will be communicated to council. Thank you all for your time. As you're aware, the treasurer is online as well. I am happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. White, for your presentation and work on this file. First comments or questions from council on this matter? Are we seeing anything, Clerk Burkholz? No. Okay, so I have a resolution for our consideration. It reads as follows, that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth approve the issuing of a request for proposal for insurance broker services for a period of 3 years, with the ability to extend for 2 further years based on satisfactory performance. Can I call on Councillor Anstett to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I would move that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Behrens, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? We're not seeing anything, so let's have that vote. And are we missing one?
My vote didn't pop up. I'm in favor. Thank you. It's Councillor
Thank
Andreessen.
Thanks, Councillor Andreessen. And so with her vote, that is carried unanimously. Let us move forward then to item 5.5.3. This item, council is asked to approve rate increases for various fees at Perth Meadows. And there's a second initiative to include a change in authorizing signatures for the ability to sign life lease occupancy and rental occupancy agreements to a new signatory within the municipality. And we have to do that by bylaw. So Ms. Hale, if you'd give us sort of a brief play-by-play of what we're being asked to do here, that would be appreciated.
Thank you, Mayor Kaysenberg, members of council. As you remember, Mayor Lois McLaughlin attended council meeting back in May as the chair of the Perth Adult Life Care Residents Committee. And she brought forward not only the budget, but also changes and rate increases that council endorsed for January the 1st, 2022. And so that I'm bringing them back to council this evening for them to be finally approved under bylaw as council directed. As well, Mayor Kaysenberg just mentioned that we are also looking at the fact that given the management and operations responsibilities for Perth Meadows will now be with the facilities department, that it might be an opportune time to change the signing authorizations from Chris and myself to have it changed to be Jeff Newell, our new facilities manager, such that we leave the CAO of this and the 2 remaining departments then would be involved in still being aware of the agreements that are in place. And so both of those are for your consideration this evening.
Thanks, Ms. Hale. Councillors, any questions or first comments on these 2 sort of actions, although we do them one by one? Councillor Rothwell?
Thanks, Mayor Todd, and sorry for the delay getting back to the table here. The question I have, and thanks for the report, Francis, it deals specifically with our rental units. We talk about, in the report, I think it's 4 rental units. Is there a consideration for additional rental units or continuing on with the same number? Thank you.
It would be my last understanding from council that those 4 units, the affordable 4 units, would remain in place, and we are given direction by council to move forward with offering life leases as our primary, and that we would only offer more rentals if we were unable to successfully obtain agreements for life leases. They've been very popular. The municipality is not as it's not as easy for us to get the word out there that they're available. So using a realtor has helped, and once they're out in an MLS listing, they seem to disappear in days. So as life leases. So if council would like to change this combination of promoting the life leases ahead of rentals, we'd be more than happy, and I'm sure Jeff would look at that with council in the future.
Thank you.
We're not seeing any other questions or first comments made available at this time, so I have a resolution for our consideration. The first is related to the fees adjustments. It reads as follows: that bylaw number 30-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the amendment of fees for the Perth Meadows development under Schedule P of the Rates and Fees bylaw be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk. I believe Deputy Mayor Callum is out on this one, so Councillor Johnston, would you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I would move that.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder for that?
Yes, I will second that. Thank you.
Thanks. Any discussion or debate? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote. And that would be carried, given the deputy mayor's abstention. And next up then, related matter, this is about the signing authority. The bylaw number 91-2021 being a bylaw to authorize the signing of life lease occupancy and rental occupancy agreements for the Perth Meadows development be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time, and be finally passed, and it said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk. I assume this is still sealed with the seal of corporation. Yeah, generally. Okay. So can I call on Councillor Rothwell to be our mover for this one? Councillor Rothwell? Maybe having ongoing technology concerns there. So mute. Councillor Rothwell? Have you unmute?
I move the motion. Sorry, there's a technical problem here. Yes.
Thank you. And Councillor Seiler, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will second it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one? See none, let's have that vote. And that is carried as well. Thank you very much. And I guess that moves us forward past finance. So thank you, Ms. Hale and your team for your work on the various files that are being worked on our behalf, including taking care of our billings and our payments. It's always appreciated. Next up then, we have no report tonight from our Environmental Services Department as item 5.6. That allows us to move to item 5.7, reports from our Manager of Operations. This evening we have a couple of items under 5.7. For item 5.71, Council is invited to abandon a portion of the 17th concession drain at the request of property owner Tolinar. Is Mr. Richardson with us tonight? His bandwidth is not great. Okay.
You can hear me there, okay?
We can, and we'll forgive you if you wink out. We know
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Todd and Council. The background with this report is at the July 19th meeting there, we had resolution 375.1
21 was passed for an abandonment for a request from Ed Tallner of Talla Acres. The request is abandon a portion of the 17 concession drain that runs through lot 14 concession 17 north of line 57. The request had been reviewed by myself, and it has been determined that there was nobody, just the one landowner story that was affected. The clerk has circulated notice of the abandonment to the owners affected, and the municipality hasn't received any comments, conflicts, or concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or first comments on this matter from council? We're not seeing any, or are we? Nope, we're not seeing any. All right. So I have a resolution, council, for our consideration that the council of the municipality of North Perth, in accordance with section 84 of the Drainage Act, proceed with the abandonment of the addition of the 17th concession drain at the request of Ed Tolinar, owner of Tall Acres. And I call on Councillor Andreessen to be our mover for this one.
Yes, I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Anstett, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Let's have that vote.
I'm in favor. My e-scribe's down, Mayor Todd.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. And so with that vote, that's carried. Thank you very much. Next up is item 5.7.2. This one invites council to appoint Spreet Associates Limited to investigate possible improvements to the Reed municipal drain. Mr. Richardson, do you have any comments on this one? Now his technology has failed. Mr. Richardson, anything?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, on July 19th of 2021 that we had passed that resolution 377.07/21, and the council of the municipality of North Perth, in accordance with section 78 of the Drainage Act, proceed with the request for improvement of the Reed municipal drain. And you can, it's pretty simple. We're just looking to appoint Spreet engineers to investigate the improvements.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Richardson on this one? I think I've taken note that Councillor Behrens is abstaining on this one. So I have a resolution for consideration. The Council of the Municipality of North Perth, in accordance with section 78 of the Drainage Act, appoints Spreet Associates Limited to investigate possible improvements to the Reed municipal drain. Deputy Mayor Kellum, will you serve as our mover for that?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I would second that.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate on that one? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote.
I'm in favor again. Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, here's Simon. Simon.
Okay, very, very good. So that motion is carried then, noting Councillor Behrens' abstention. That moves us along to item 5.7.3. This one invites council to appoint Spreet Associates Limited to investigate possible improvements to the Logan Maitland municipal drain. Mr. Richardson, I'm assuming this is second verse, same as the first kind of thing?
That's correct.
That was easy. Short and sweet. All right, we have a resolution then for council's consideration that the Council of the Municipality of North Perth, in accordance with section 78 of the Drainage Act, appoints Spreet Associates Limited to investigate the possible improvements to the Logan Maitland municipal drain. Councillor Behrens, can I call on you to be our mover for that one?
Yes, I will make that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Richardson, will you serve as our seconder?
Yes, I will happily second that.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? Seeing no indication of same, let's have that vote.
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Kellum. And so with that, that is carried as well. Thank you very much. Council, we have no report from the fire department for this meeting. Mr. Richardson, thank you very much. Give you a little salute here. Appreciate your work on the drain files. As I said, nothing from the fire department tonight, which brings us to item 6 on our agenda. For item 6.1, councillors, are there any reports you would like to ask of staff or of our committees? To request opportunity to speak, the usual process applies. Are we seeing any indication for item 6? Okay, so for item 7, we have received no additional correspondence which requires our action or attention. That brings us to item 8 on our agenda, which allows council to consider and enact bylaws. We have no additional, well, we do have an additional bylaw proposed tonight. What am I saying? As item 8.1, we have for our consideration a proposed bylaw number 62-2021 that provides for a drainage works, the Burnett Municipal Drain. We're at the third and final reading for this bylaw. I've taken note that Councillor Johnston is out on this one. Are there any questions or concerns from councillors before we consider the bylaw resolution? Okay, we're not seeing any, so I have a resolution that reads as follows: that bylaw number 62-2021 being a bylaw to provide for a drainage works, the Burnett Municipal Drain, be introduced, read, and considered read a third time and be finally passed, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Mr. Rothwell, can I call on you to be our mover for that tonight?
I so move.
Thank you. Councillor Seiler, will you second that one?
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate on that one? We're not seeing any, so let's have that vote.
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And so with that vote, we have the 8 votes that we would expect in this, so that is carried. Thank you. Let's move forward. That brings us to item 9 on our agenda. Are there any councillors wishing leave to give notice of motion this evening? We're not seeing anything there. So that moves us along to item 10 on our agenda. For item 10.1, are there any announcements that would be of benefit to our community or that reflect well on North Perth at this time? Again, the usual request to speak proposition is in place. Do we see anything quick reference? Mr. Andreessen.
Yes, thank you through you, Mayor Kasenberg. I just want to congratulate the fire department for all their efforts. All the fire departments worked together to provide a community breakfast this past weekend, and that was done in partnership with the Listowel Agricultural Society. And all the profits were, of course, for the cause of the fire departments. And I helped volunteer at that event, and I'm proud to say we served almost 1,000 breakfasts on Sunday morning. So thank you to the community for supporting our fire departments.
That's a tremendous amount of work, Councillor Andreessen, and I tip the hat to the team that made that possible. Certainly, that is a long-standing event in our community, and the generosity of the Agricultural Society in providing some support this year is much appreciated. I took note of a couple of wedding anniversaries recently. I know that Councillor Seiler and his wife Debbie celebrated their 43rd, I believe. And I heard tonight that Councillor Johnston and his wife Christine celebrated their anniversary today. So there's a brave man who's in our attendance today. Congratulations to our colleagues on those events. And Councillor Anstett, you need to send more pictures of the young lads. That's grandparent envy. All right, let's move forward then to item 11. We have one matter before us to be considered in a closed session meeting of council. I will now read the resolution that both explains and enables our action to enter closed session. That this committee proceed in camera at 9:04 p.m. to address a matter pertaining to one, a proposed or pending acquisition, sale of land for municipal or local board purpose regarding the former Moncton Library. Can I call on Deputy Mayor Kellum to be our mover for that? Deputy Mayor Kellum?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Thank you. And Councillor Johnston, will you serve as our seconder on that one?
Yes, I would second.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or debate? Seeing none, let's have that vote. And that is carried. Thank you. Council, that means that we are temporarily adjourned from open session. We're going to make a few AV adjustments. They will not take long. Any participant in the call who has not been invited to remain on the call should at this time, and we appreciate your contribution so far to our meeting. Other councillors and staff who've been invited to be here, stay tuned for just a few moments. You might want to bring the web screen down or something. I don't know. Okay. We just need a test to see that we're broadcasting audio and video on YouTube. Can anyone check that for us? Councilor Richardson, you're usually trusty soul there. We appear to be back on YouTube. Yep, we're back on. Very good. Thank you. All right. With regards to our report to the community as agenda item number 12, we don't have anything to report at this time on our brief session. Council has a mandated good practice acts near the end of its meeting agenda to confirm all of its actions and business of its meeting through what is called a confirmatory bylaw. I have a draft of that to be enabled here. The bylaw number 92-2021 being a bylaw to confirm generally previous actions of the Council of the Municipality of North Perth be introduced, read, and considered read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed. That the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and the clerk and sealed with the seal of the corporation. Can I call on, I think about who I can call on here. This is getting interesting. Councilor Richardson, will you be our mover?
Yes, I would happily move that.
Thank you. And Councilor Rothwell, will you be our seconder?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Any discussion or debate? We know we're going to miss a whole bunch of our colleagues voting on this one, but let's have that vote. We don't have e-scribe. Okay, that's easy. So those who can vote, if there are any opposed. And so that is carried based on my visual inspection of the screen. And therefore, Council, we've completed the deliberation and taken action on the business that came before us tonight. I do have a motion to adjourn, which reads as follows. The council meeting adjourns at 9:29 p.m. to meet again for general council business on Monday, September 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. I call on Councillor Anstett to be our mover for that.
Yes, I would move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. And Councillor Behrens, will you be our seconder?
I certainly will.
Thank you. That's not debatable. So, are there any opposed? I don't see any of your beautiful faces raising hands, so we'll call that carried, which means we are adjourned, and we'll see you next Monday night. Thank you, Council, and to all of our delegates and staff tonight. I appreciate all the work that's been done. Have a great week.